Stop jerking the trigger. You're still jerking the trigger.
Hey, it's not as easy as it looks. Well, you're closer to the target than I am.
Finally.
You know what? I don't need you to...
Who referred you to us?
Luke Skywalker sashays his way into the gun control debate, but he forgot that the Jedi mind trick only works on the weak-willed. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like channel-like content and what I do here, you can support me with the link. Everything's appreciated. Connecticut residents, plan on getting your Connecticut pistol permit. July 1st is coming up fast. Please get your training done, get your paperwork turned in before July 1st because the new training addendum will take effect at that time. The information has been passed down, but there seems to be some gray areas that are not being covered and the shenanigans going on. If you have your permit, watch the expiration date. Don't let it expire. There's a link to the online renewal portal for the state of Connecticut for permits in the description box. Keep an eye on that. Let's talk about this. And this is very interesting. Mark Hamill, who you famously know as Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars franchise, has injected himself into the gun control debate. And he went to Twitter and posted this. Every day, more than 100 Americans are killed by guns. Gun homicide rates in the U.S. are 26 times higher than other developed nations. In honor of those who have lost their lives to gun violence, he basically saying wear orange, and he shows his little X-Wing fighter suit there in the description box. I wondered, but I have to ask, because once again, this just shows some hypocrisy. What color are you going to wear for all the people who have lost their lives to fentanyl due to your buddy's bad policies? Just saying. But he thinks because, hey, I was Luke Skywalker, I was very famous, still technically very famous. Like I said, he managed to get one of the greatest roles in one of the greatest franchises in movie history, but he doesn't know squat about guns, and that's the problem. I'm going to start right at the top. He says every day more than 100 Americans are killed with guns. Yes, but what he doesn't tell you, there's this thing called context. More than half of those people are self-deletions. These are people who kill themselves. And this does not include accidental deaths, accidents with firearms. The next portion of that are basically violence in the inner city. Gang violence accounts for a good chunk of the rest of that, which once again is failed policy. If the United States could remove Chicago, St. Louis, Detroit, Los Angeles, if they could remove those cities from their gun violence tally, you'd find out that the United States is very low in the so-called gun violence numbers. But they don't want to talk about that because why? Because all of these major cities that have this gun violence problem are run by Democrats with very strict gun policies. But they don't want to talk about that. Then he goes on to say gun homicide rates in the U.S. are 26 times higher than any other developed nation. Well, that's very interesting that he says developed nations. What about undeveloped nations? Are you saying that their gun violence is not as important as developed nations? It's kind of, I don't know, man. That's kind of a little bit on the elitist side. But if you compare the U.S. to all countries, you will find out that we are not that high when it comes to gun violence. because gun violence in undeveloped nations, a lot of times these gun violence issues do not get reported throughout Africa, throughout South America, what have you. So once again, he's not using context. He's just using talking points that he got from every town for gun safety, and he is not applying context, as they don't either. Now, going back to the 100 people a day, which is really sad because we're losing just as many people to deaths in vehicles, to fentanyl, drug overdoses, and what have you. But those people just don't seem to count in these people's world. And I don't understand why. Death is death. It doesn't matter how it's carried out. But ignoring that, saying that 100 people every day die by gun violence, we're not associating with the fact that, according to the CDC, when they did every major study, they pointed out that 500,000 to 3 million times a year, Americans use firearms to defend themselves against violence. 500,000 to 3 million a year. Now, if you remember, I did a video on the CDC being pressured by anti-gun groups to basically squash that number because it was hurting their chances of getting gun control. If you remember that whole thing, that was just really amazing because you had anti-gun groups actually cooperating with government officials to actually squash that number because they claimed that it couldn't be proven. When in reality, it can't be proven one way or the other because, like I said, a lot of times when the gun is used to protect someone, it doesn't get reported to the police. Somebody brandishes a gun to prevent violence to themselves. It doesn't always get reported. So anyone can find fault with the number one way or the other, or find pros and cons to it. But his use of that, of the idea that 100 people die every day from gun violence, once again is disingenuous because, as I stated before, more than half are unfortunately suicides. And if that person didn't have a gun and was intent on committing suicide, do you think they would just go, well, I don't have a gun, so I'm not going to do it? Of course not. But like I said, he figures I'm famous and I'm just going to interject myself into a conversation that I know very little about. And that's really unfortunate. But that's how it is sometimes. You just got to deal with it. You got to deal with the stupidity. It goes hand in hand. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.